Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MK back here with another video. I'm not used to videos uploading that quick when I press play. It normally takes quite a while on Facebook or whatever, but anyway, I'll try and get to it. I say it's your boy MKS here back here with another video, and been a bit of a rough day. I've had to have a nap, partly because of that, partly because I get tired, and partly because of the results. Celtic lost 3-1 and Rangers won 3-1, the Rankers as I call them, which is very, excuse the expression, but gutting. As I say, a victory for Celtic is a victory against imperialism, as they normally anti-imperialist. Anyway, I hope this uploads as well as possible. One of the things that's put me off uploading in a way is like, I wonder if, heaven forbid, hopefully it won't touch wood, but if heaven forbid a social media group like Facebook or YouTube like deletes my content or deletes my channel or whatever, hopefully it won't happen. But I feel a bit victimized. I don't know if it's because of my really terribly poor punctuation. I was thinking of saying, I forgot to say in part one, or if it's because of the fact I post a lot or whatever, but they seem to be deleting my channels or whatever and all sorts of things. So that's a touch wood, they'll stop. But anyway, I was thinking, I'm doing my own form of reparation. I hope it's not rude to me when I'm talking, but please forgive me. But I'm doing my own reparations by eating Indian food. Maybe look at it. Buy Indian products like Indian food and stuff like that, and try Indian snacks and food. It's more of a snack than a meal, but partly because I'm hungry and partly for my own form of reparations for India, who was colonised. Part of my ancestry there. But if you see my other videos, you'll know. As far as where my background in terms of race or ethnicity, I get those mixed up or whatever, but is a fifth English, fifth Scottish, a fifth French, a fifth Irish, and a fifth Indian. But anyway, I'm going to try and crack on with the video. So, it's been a bad day football-wise, but hopefully Celtic will improve. I hope we better. And I do fear our rivals have got some good managers. Brendan Rodgers is ruining his legacy. I do think, like, no wonder he didn't do so well at Leicester. But anyway, these are pointers number 11 to 20. So I hope you enjoy them. Peace and love and all that. So here goes. So number 11. As I say, as ever, please feel free to agree or disagree as you like, and post whatever you like in the comments. I won't delete it. It's freedom of speech and freedom of expression. A lot of content creators of colour, black content creators, it seems especially, seem to like sort of turn off the comments, and I think that sort of helps racists to win. I don't know if I explained this here or on Facebook. I think I explained it on my Facebook channel actually, before they took it down. But I'm a bit of a coward myself, but I don't know if I'd say it's cowardly, but if like people here in Britain, they're putting up flags, which is fair enough. I think they should be given that option. It doesn't necessarily mean they're racist or they're saying they're not welcome or whatever necessarily, depending on if it's just a flag or whatever. But they're putting up flags everywhere with razor colours and all that, they call it, and all that, for anyone watching overseas who might not know that. But I mean, other colours, other countries, sorry, put their flags up or whatever. But they, yeah, imagine if people are taking them down because they think they're racist and should recall that they're divisive, they're not welcoming for people from overseas and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, if they stopped putting their flags up, I guess you could say that's a victory for those who don't want them to put their flags up. And I think it's the same with comments. Like, if black content creators allow for comments, the more comments they get, even including hate comments or whatever, the more views they get. Like, I'd rather have hate comments than no comments, I guess. I'd rather have love comments, but I'd rather have hate comments than none. But one thing I was going to say for point number 11 is, I think his name's Stephen Crowder, and he does like Louder with Crowder. And he talks about, like, he says something like, there's only two genders, change my mind or whatever. And I was saying the same thing. I believe reparations is a fair, sort of just sort of thing. I don't know how it could work necessarily, but I think it should be something certainly discussed. Definitely, I think it should be discussed either way, for and against and for and whatever, and a proper debate about it. Looking at the pros and cons and pros or whatever, again, for and against and for and whatever. I'm over elaborating perhaps, but I think that, yeah, I am an anti-imperialist and I believe in reparations. Change my mind. I'd say please, the extra part, but yeah, just sort of like Stephen Crowder, Louder with Crowder, like change my mind. So yeah, could you change my mind about that? So by all means, post up the contrary, if you like, preferably as politely as possible. I think it's good to be loving and nice to each other, whatever background people are. But that's my personal opinion. Not everyone agrees, obviously. It'd be boring if everyone's the same, I guess, if we were all nice to each other all the time, I guess. But I was thinking like how I'd love for things to be easy, nice and easy, but then if life was too easy, maybe it'd be boring. And another thing I was going to say for point number 11 before I move on to point number 12, in fact, I might include it in point number 12 because I'm struggling for content to cover for this. So, right, so I'm going to say point number 12. I was going to say point number 11, but I was thinking that if I damaged a shop, or if I went to steal from a shop or a property, or did something illegal and I was taken to court and someone's going to fine me, again, I hope it's not rude to eat while I'm talking, but and I went to court and I did something bad, and I'll say maybe I stole from a shop or whatever, a petrol station, a shop, or whatever it might be. Petrol station is probably a tough shop anyway. And I went to court and they said, MKS, Mr. Shenton, you have to pay for this crime. You have to pay financially. And I said, and then my defense team said, okay, what is the amount that Mr. Shenton should pay? And they said, so I often think of hypothetical scenarios like that and make people think like put yourself in other people's shoes or whatever. But yeah, if they said Mr. Shenton should pay X amount, and maybe this shop, let's say it was a petrol station or a superstore or whatever, and they said, well, we can't work out the exact damage about how much Mr. Shenton has damaged this property or whatever, or how much the damage has caused, or how much he stole, or if I start going crazy and throwing things around the shop or whatever, heaven forbid. Then I wonder if the courts would say, well, if you can't find an amount, or the defence team could say, oh, if you can't find the amount that's owed, then Mr. Shenton shouldn't have to pay anything. I think they probably said, well, we have to find a rough figure, and if you say like the figure is a certain amount. So my reason why I mentioned that is just in case you didn't work that one out, but is that like imperialists and stroke people who are pro-colonial, pro-empire or whatever, or basically anti reparations, which is fair enough. Maybe, hopefully some people from both sides of the spectrum will watch these videos and get involved in a discussion hopefully as amicably as possible. Again, you can post whatever you like. But they often say, like, if you can't get the number, or how would you work it out, or you can't make up for the past, like for slavery, how do you make up for that? And they say we shouldn't have to pay anything, or how can you do anything about it? Rather than saying, well, this is a relative amount which would go some way towards justice. If you can make at least a rough figure, I think it would be fair. I think however many black people were brought to Britain and so-called by Britain around the world and work as slaves for very little. I assume they got paid very little, probably like £2 or £3 an hour in today's climate. I think pounds, because I live in the UK and it's Blackish month in Britain as well. But yeah, in February I'll probably think in dollars or whatever maybe. But yeah, whatever number anyway. And if you checked and said, well, would they be paid twice the amount if there was a minimum wage back then? So legally, they'd be paid at least twice the amount, just on the minimum, hypothetically. And you worked out there was millions of them. You could probably do a bit of math and say, roughly, for unpaid labour, we could pay this much, and for stress, for this sort of thing, or human rights violations or whatever, we could at least have some sort of number. So I definitely think it would go some more way towards justice to have some sort of fee or whatever. Similar for India and other parts of Asia as well, but I mainly focus on Black community and Africa because it's Blackish Month. But yeah, maybe Africa and Asia and countries that are colonized, Aboriginals, Native Americans and whatnot, could lobby together and work together. Maybe they could use that to unite together, which I think is even more important than reparations, because then the money will be used better as well. Like if wealthy black people got to save money on their tax, which I talk about, like being tax exempt, they could. It depends how they spend that money and how would that benefit poorer black people. But if they invested in their own people, so to speak, if they supported poorer black people, they could help. But again, I'd love to know what you think. Number 13. Again, I suppose I've got to. Not stutter on my words. I've got to listen to the other side of the argument and not be an echo chamber. I feel it would only be fair, and I'm prepared to read from and listen to the other side of the argument, playing devil's advocate. But on a serious note, because I think of the point number 13 as being like negative, or number 13 generally as being negative. So on a serious note, like I guess I have my doubts whether justice could ever work, or I have my doubts in life whether things could work or whatever. But I think I don't know if it's possible to get the exact number or whatever. But again, given my scenario, what I said in point number 12 about like if you damaged property or stole from things or whatever, you would probably, even if they couldn't find the exact number, you'd probably have to pay something towards it. But moving on, number 14, again, the solution could be like saying roughly, or do a bit of maths and say like this many people were enslaved, roughly, according to records, this much, this is how much it would have been paid if there was a minimum wage back then, so we can backdate it and per hour. So assuming there's, let's say, 1 million people were enslaved, maybe I think it's 3 million or so, they say. And that, I don't know if that's just brought to Britain, but by Britain around the world. So, and whatever number, let's say, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible for me because I'm quite simple, I'm quite special, but I'm not very good at maths as well. But so, yeah, but I mean, calculators exist, I guess. We're not in a classroom, whatever, don't have to make things complex like I do. But anyway, yeah, class in session, as I say. But a solution, I think, could be like say, to say roughly this many slaves were taken, and they did this much. Imagine if they worked 10 hours a day, and they would have been paid. They were paid like £3 an hour, and they would have been paid £7 an hour. Let's say so that's £4 an hour times, let's say, 1 million. So that's 4 million an hour times 10 hours. That's 40 million an hour times X amount of days, or 3, however many, I don't know how many, I assume slaves didn't have holidays or whatever, so almost 365 a year. So yeah, maybe need the calculator, or someone who's better at maths could work that out. But I think it would be fair to look at those numbers and probably work it out. That would be quite a lot. But I suppose how could that money be distributed? I think it could be distributed in the form of like say tax exemptions would be a big one. So black people being exempt from tax. I know for the same for dyslexics from a slightly more selfish point of view. Partly because I don't want to. If I invested, one of the things that puts me off, like trying to run a business or whatever, other than the hard work involved, and I don't have hard work involved in my body, to be honest, I'd love to be able to find easy ways to do things. But the other one is, another thing is, I'm not that materialistic, and another thing is, so people might think, oh, I'm saying this because I think people who want reparations have been accused of just trying to be on the money grab or whatever, on the take, or on the money grab, or just wanting easy money or whatever it might be. But yeah, I don't plan to make that much money. Most of it I'd give away if I had lots. Some of it to selfish stuff, some of it to less selfish stuff like this, and to what I would see as justice, proposed justice by myself. But yeah, it could be in the form of tax exemptions, tax like income tax, VAT, MOT, council tax, and other such taxes. Dyslexic and or black people could be exempt from such. The dyslexics in there, the dyslexic way not. And also it could be like funding. I know like banks like I think NatWest, Lloyd's, and possibly Barclays, who are actually apparently instrumental in apartheid in South Africa, and have been accused of supporting Israel and all that kind of. But I try and stay neutral with that one. But in the latter, but to support black-owned businesses, on my alliterations like Barclays, to support black-owned businesses, B2B, and also I think of like reparations being called the N-word, like NatWest could support them, and all the different names they've been called, like 3 or 4 different racial slurs. But yeah, to reparate them that. So as I say, it could be tax exemptions, it could be increased funding, mentorship, teaching, training, opportunities to network together, networking events and things like that. And some might argue that banks have already done things like this and all that. But another thing I was thinking of is like in the past here in Britain, apparently, don't know if this happened anywhere else, but the slave owners were compensated for the end of slavery, whereas the slaves themselves and their descendants have never been compensated, as far as I'm aware. I think it's similar in America with like the farms, apparently, and I don't know how true this is, but they say the farms were the farmers took the government to court the white farmers because they didn't want the government to give bailouts to black farmers, and recently they've been compensated for that. To be fair, I don't know if it's the right amount that they should have been, but they've had some compensation for that. And I suppose there are projects that are kind of like helping black people on YouTube and things like that. But yeah, I hope there'll be more of those, like helping black social media influencers for October and February in America for the African Americans, and or even globally, maybe like in October and February, and helping them to network together and things like that. There could be things like that. And yeah, so I'd love to support black social media content creators, similar with dyslexics. Like if the school system doesn't help us finding our own way, I suppose not quite the same as reparations, but it kind of is a little bit, in my opinion. But yeah, I'd love to know what you, again, I was going to say, but what do you think? I'd love to know what you think as well. So I'm sharing my own opinions, and I'm sort of quoting other people's opinions a little bit, but I can only give my own opinion and possibly quote other people's and try and see things from both sides of the angle. Hence why I encourage people to comment their own views as well. So I hope people will get involved in the discussion, hopefully be polite to me and preferably especially to polite to each other as well, ideally. But yeah, I think there's things like that, like supporting them on social media, supporting black social media, social enterprises as well, startups, SMEs and businesses, networks and things like that. And maybe they could reparate each other by supporting each other, networking together. And I'm sure there's something else I was going to say, but yeah, tax cuts, tax incentives for supporting black people, for instance, and also increased funding and things like that. But again, I'd love to know what you think could be done to support black community and sort of make up for history and reparate them, if you, or whether you whether you agree or disagree or whatever. Any thoughts you have, any ideas, any opinions or whatever, please do post them in the comments, like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, all that. I think I do believe in all those things. And again, I do believe that black social media influencers and people on YouTube should not disable comments. In fact, I don't think anyone should disable comments. And I don't think it's a very good idea for yourself, really, mainly because it means you're not going to get as many people getting involved in the discussion, so they can't share their ideas with you, and they can't give you more. I mean, they can give you a view, but as in like views for your channel, but I think it's better if, like, you can see how many people have commented on a video and all that kind of thing. So I'd rather have hate comments than no comments, and I'd rather have love comments than hate comments. But I'd rather have either way. Even though I'd love to have more positive comments, I'd still rather have negative comments than no comments. So please do get posted either way. But again, I'd prefer them to be positive. But anyway, moving on. Number 15. It's a bit annoying, just like in part 1. There were some points I was going to say, and I completely forgot them again. I also forgot to say in point number 6. I'd love for Italian football to give back and fundraise to sort of compensate for countries they colonized within their own empire, as someone who's a supporter of Italian teams as well. And maybe that would encourage others to do so as well. And also, but Italy hopefully would lead the field in that. And also, I hope it will still benefit Italian football from a biased point of view, soccer, whatever they call it. And Celtic does a lot already, and I hope they get reparations. I'd love for Celtic to get reparations for the harsh treatment of the Irish community as well. Maybe Irish people on that note could get reparations somehow. So I'm opening up a can of worms perhaps, but I think if one group gets it, I think it's only fair for another group. Just like if Japanese prisoners of war and the Jewish community from Germany gets reparations, then I think why not other groups? Why what's the word? Single out? I think what I'm trying to say why I can't think of the damn word. Why leave out, let's say, to keep it simple, one group over another. Yeah, number 15, supporting black ambition and that kind of thing. And as I say, I'd love to see Italian football and Celtic fundraise for people in Africa and that kind of thing. And hopefully that will benefit Italian soccer and Celtic as well. So yeah, hopefully black and other POC would support Celtic. And I'd love for Celtic to get, as I say, reparation. I'd love for Celtic, I'd love for Italian football and Celtic, to be fair, Italian football from a very selfish point of view, to be tax exempt and even be a tax haven, both Italian football and Celtic. But yeah, I'd love to support black ambition. And I suppose it's my own form, say, of reparations, buying from black-owned businesses or whatever. And number 16, I'd love to know, again, pros and cons and pros, for and against and for. How do I get to the point more quickly? But yeah, I'd love to know different people's opinions and ideas. And what do you think are the best ways to support dyslexic and or black people? And I suppose some people might say, instead of reparations and recompense. It'd be good to support the black community, let's say, but in a different way. I don't know. But again, I'd love to know different opinions, ideas, and things I might not have thought of, and ideas I might not have thought of, and different angles and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if this was a point I was going to mention, but like a number, you could say, like, so apparently after the end of slavery, white slave owners were given, as far as I'm aware, it was all white slave owners who were given 1 billion or something, or by now probably even more than that. So why not $1 billion for the black community to invest in each other and support each other? I suppose the argument could be, where could that money come from? I don't know if it could come from the budget. I mean, if they save money on their taxes and get more funding, then that could be multiple billions. So that could go towards it. But yeah, I'm not, again, I've got to admit, I don't know exactly where that could come from. It could be encouraging banks to invest in the black community, encouraging investors to do so, offering tax incentives and things I've talked about. I don't know if it could come from the budget, maybe from the military, maybe like the money spent on militarism, which took over those nations and was used to persecute other people. Another controversial view of mine. Yeah, I love to support black social media influencers as a form of reparations, and maybe other minorities could help each other, because as well as asking for reparations, I think it's more about supporting each other as POC, and maybe using colonialism to sort of, I'd say, reparate ourselves, to sort of say we went through this, so we're going to support each other. But again, like out of the box, probably dyslexic or mad thinking, or both, whatever. I don't know. Method in the madness. Not all dyslexics are mad like me, to be fair. I don't want to give a bad impression of my fellow dyslexics. Not all right likenesses like me either, but unfortunately I do struggle to change my punctuation. Number 17, yeah, as I say, creative, I don't know why I say yeah, but creative, imaginative ideas to reparate the black community. And again, I'd love to know different views and how it could be done. And again, tax exemptions, tax incentives for investing in black community, increased investments, encouraging banks and investors, again through tax exemptions, offering ideas about how black people can save money on their bills, lecky bills, shopping bills, and general bills. Maybe they could, again, reparate themselves and buy it together in bulk and support each other, whatever. No controversial ideas. But number 18, and yeah, obviously I'm arguing from my own personal point of view and my own ideas and thoughts, but I'd like to think I give the opposite point of view and a fair shot, unlike many other people. I try and be as fair as possible. Number 19, again, it could be supporting black people in careers. Now, some might not want to be in business or investing, and others might do so. Some might want to be teachers, doctors, nurses, or whatever. I don't think they should just be given the job. Maybe there could be more funding for their training. There could be debt relief on their student loans. I'm not a big fan of academia, but that could be something. For instance, they could have some certain debt wiped off, although I don't want it to be something that's too forced. I don't want to force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. So the people who put that debt in, I suppose I don't want them to be forced. And the other thing is, like I talked about, encouraging banks and other businesses and investors to invest in the black community and that kind of thing. Again, tax exemptions could be a way where they're not forced to do so, but maybe the government could at least ask them and see what sort of laws are fair, sort of, without taking away other people's freedom. Generally, I wish for everyone to be free, whatever race or religion or colour they are, whether they're white, black, Asian, much like me, or whatever. Yeah, maybe other minorities, much like me, could support black, Asian, and whatnot, and that kind of thing. And also, yeah, supporting them, like becoming social media influencers, programmers, software developers, coders, and whatnot. Supporting them in AI, helping them to get into careers in AI, building robotics and all sorts of things like that. And again, they can network with each other. And number 20, also supporting black people in STEM. I'd love to have projects which support like Aboriginals, Torres and Strait Pacific Islanders, and Maoris, basically Indigenous Australasians, as well as people from Africa and the black community around the world in STEM, and like Aboriginals in STEM, Africans in STEM, black people in STEM, things like that more generally, and that kind of thing. And on that note, I'm going to stop waffling, and I'm out. And peace and love.